Welcome back, fifth graders. We are moving on to our next math lesson. So for this week, we are going to work on pages 138 to 143. Please do not get discouraged or intimidated by the number of pages. It seems like a lot of pages in your math workbook, but really, there's only 2 to 3 problems on each page. So you're going to see that it's not going to take you very long to do this assignment. Okay, so let's make sure that you have a calculator, a pencil, a whiteboard, a scratch piece of paper, and most importantly, your Bridges math workbook. And then we're going to turn to page 138. So for this lesson, we're going to explore how the standard algorithm, or what we like to call the classic way, and the area model, or what we call the box method, are different and how they are actually very much the same. So, starting at the top of the page, we're moving toward the standard algorithm. How does the standard multiplication algorithm work? And we've been learning and practicing the standard algorithm. So, 3 important things to remember is that it goes from the bottom to the top, it goes from right to left, and it always starts with the ones. So I'm going to kind of show you the first problem. Right here I have a 2 by 2 digit multiplication problem. I have a area model, or what we call the box method. This should look pretty familiar to you. And then I have the same problem broken up from the ones all the way to the tens. So let's go ahead and do this problem together so you can kind of see how this works. All right, so we're going to start with estimating. We're going to start to estimate 36 times 24. It's always a good idea to estimate problems before you solve them, because if you can come up with a reasonable estimate, it makes it easier to check your work. If you find that your answer is way off, if it's too high or really too low than your estimate, that means that you may need to double check your work. So let's estimate 36 times 24. So I have my whiteboard here. And to estimate, it's just change your numbers into friendly numbers. So when I think of 36, I'm going to round 36 to 40. 36 is closer to 40. Remember that rhyme, 5 or more raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest. So 36, I'm going to round up to 40, and I'm going to multiply by 24. I'm going to change 24 to 20 because 20 is closer to 24. So these are going to be friendly numbers. 40 times 20, I can do this in my mind. 4 times 2 is 8. And then I'm going to add 2 zeros. So my precise answer should be around 800. If it's significantly higher or significantly lower, then that must mean I need to check my work. So I'm trying to get around 800. Okay. Now we're going to start with the area model. So we're going to work the area model a little bit differently. So you're going to actually start at the very bottom right-hand side. I know this is completely different than what we've practiced. Usually when we do the area model, we always start on this side. We start with the big box. But you're going to see, we're going to start with a small box, and we're going to do A, B, C, and then finally we're going to do D last. So we're going to go in reverse, which will make it kind of fun. Okay, let's start with A. So I see A is 4 times 6, which is 24. Now I'm going to go to B. B is going to be 4 times 30. So you see this is a 4 by 30. 4 by 30 is going to be 4 times 3 is 12 plus the 0. Okay, now I'm going to go on to C. C is 6 by 20. This is a little hard. There's not enough space to really write your answer. So 6 times 20 is the same as 6 times 2. Then I put the 0 at the end. Okay, that's also 120. Now I'm going to do the very last box, which will be 30 times 20. So 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 zeros, 600. So I know that was a little bit different. We went from A, B, C, and then finally D. So we did the area model in reverse. Okay, now I'm going to list the partial products. These are the problems that I already did on the area model. So I'm going to start with A. 4 times 6, 24. 4 times 30, 120. C is also 120. And then finally, I have 600. So what I can do is I can use a whiteboard or I can use my calculator and I can find the sum. So I have 24 plus 120 plus 120 plus 600 is 864. So that was actually close to my estimate. So remember when we estimated, we came up with 800 and we came up with 864. So that would be the right answer. Okay, let's go on to the next problem. Okay, 5th graders, we are on the next problem, which is 28 times 26. First, we're going to estimate the answer, which allows us to check our work. So I have my whiteboard here, and I'm going to estimate 28. So 28, I am going to round up to 30. 28 is closer to 30 than 20. And finally, the 26. When I think of 26, I'm also going to round up to 30 because it's closer to 30 than 20. So this will become 30 times 30. So 30 times 30, I'm going to first multiply 3 times 3, which is 9, and then 2 zeros. Now I know that this will be a little bit higher than the regular answer, but this is going to tell me that it should be close. So my estimate is going to be around 900. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the area model. Now we are working backwards in the area model. So we're starting with A, then we go to B, C, and D. So we're showing how when we use the area model to go to the standard algorithm, we actually work backwards. And that's what the standard algorithm is. It's like the area model, we just go backwards. So let's start with A. So I look at A, and I know that A is going to be 6 times 8, which is 48. I'm going to put 48 over here. Now we can see that right in this side. 8 times 6 is 48. Okay, so now I'm going to go to B. Now B is going to be 6 times 20. I'm going to write 6 times 20, which will be 120. I'm going to write it right here. And then I'm going to go to C. C is going to be 8 times 20. So I know that 8 times 2 is 16. Then I just put the 0 at the end. It's 160. And then finally, I'm going to do the big box, 20 times 20. So I know that 2 times 2 is 4, plus 2 zeros is going to be 400. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the sums. I'm going to find the sum of all the partial products. I have my calculator here. So I'm going to start with 48 plus 120 plus 160 plus 400 is going to equal 728. So let me check that one more time. So I have 48 plus 120 plus 160 plus 400 is going to equal 728. And we're going to notice right away that our estimate is much higher than we figured right here because we actually rounded up quite a bit. So remember, we rounded this to 30 and 30. So this is significantly higher than our original estimate. Okay, now let's go on to the next page. Now we are on page 139. We're going to start with number 2. And we're going to estimate 29 times 18. So I'm going to show you again how we can estimate. Here's my whiteboard. And I'm going to estimate 29, and I'm going to change 29 to 30. closer to 30. And then 18, I'm going to round to 20. So we should have 30 times 20, which is 600. So my estimate might be around 600. It probably will be less because I'm rounding all my numbers up. So I'm going to round to 600. Now that I've rounded to 600, I'm going to start with the area model. Remember, with the area model this time, we're actually working backwards. We're starting with A, B, C, and then we're going to D. So let's start with A. So I know that 9 times 8 is 72. So I'm going to put 9 times 8 equals 72. All right, now I'm going to go to B. B is 8 times 20. 8 times 20 I know is 160. So I'm going to write that problem right here. 8 times 20, 160. Now I'm going to go on to C. C is going to be 9 times 10. Which is 90. 9 times 10, 90. And finally, I'm going to multiply 20 times 10. Multiply the 2 times 1, which is 2. And I have 2 zeros, 200. So now I can use my calculator or I can use my whiteboard, and I'm going to figure out the total. I'm going to add the partial products together. So I'm going to start with 72 plus 160 plus 90 plus 200, 522. Now I can look back at my estimate, and my estimate was around 600. 522 and 600, it's around the same ballpark. Okay, let's go on to question 3. Question 3 is a little bit different because you're going to see right away that we do not have a complete area model done with the problem. We're missing some lines. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and draw in those lines. You don't have to. If you think that you can imagine the lines there, you don't have to draw on the lines. I'm just going to draw the lines myself so you can see what it looks like. I created the box, and I also colored in the partial products to help us visualize the problem. The first step I'm going to do is I'm going to estimate what 35 times 27 is going to be. So 35, I'm going to round to 40 because 35 is closer to 40. And then the 27, I'm going to round to 30. So my problem I'm going to estimate is going to be 40 times 30 equals 120. So that'll be my estimate. Now that I have my estimate, I'm going to go ahead and start with the area model. So I'm going to start here. So this will be A, B, C, D. Let me help you write in those labels. A, B, C, D. So I'm going to start with the smallest one, which is going to be 7 times 5, which is 35. I'm going to write that for A right here. 7 times 5 is 35. So now that makes a little sense. My estimate's a little higher than my total, but it's in the same ballpark. Okay, now we're going to move on to the bottom part of this page, which will be pretty easy for you. At the bottom of this page, you're going to notice that you're going to multiply some friendly numbers together. At the bottom of this page, you're going to notice that you're going to multiply some friendly numbers together. Remember, the strategy, the easy strategy, is to multiply the digits that are not zeros. So I highlighted those in the problems below. And then I'm going to kind of add my zeros at the end that are the placeholders. So I'm going to do the first problem with you, but then I think you'll be able to do the rest of the problems. 1,200. Don't forget the comma. Okay, go ahead and do the rest. Remember, first multiply the non-zero digits first.